SVG is also text-based. You can just open it and look at it, and it looks like website code. It's actually an XML. So if you go ahead and open Inkscape.
Can we actually log on to these laptops if we're trying to follow along, or should we just watch through?
Oh yeah, yeah. All the logins.
Guest, there's a guest.
Is it guest?
I think it's just guest. Thank you.
Sorry, forgot about the computer part. That helps. Oh, that's right. Yeah. So I have it in that folder.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it is. Boom. Awesome.
When you're on your laptop,
That's right. I forgot to show you that. That's where it is.
Do you remember those two words you said? I think it was SVG.
SVG is the file format.
And then what was the other one?
It's, scalable vector graphics. But the other one is raster image or bitmap.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is all like Chinese to me.
It's all right. We'll go through it and.
To be able to see the word, like on a slide, like to be able to see the words that you're talking about, so we can write them down.
Yeah.
So we can learn more later.
And I'll be on the Discord as well for help. And this afternoon we'll go over more practical stuff, actually getting it printing and everything.
So one question I had was, can you take a picture that you already have and put it in there and then change it?
Yeah. You basically do bitmap to, it basically traces it for you and turns it into a series of paths. And I've got an example for that.
Okay,
so
cool.
Yeah. Cool. So we'll give everybody a minute to get into Inkscape.
Another question I had was, can you change something if it's a raster? Can you change it to vector?
Right, that would be importing it and tracing the bitmap, tracing the raster.
Because I was like, I don't want something pixelated, but I think it might be pixelated if I blew it up.
Yeah, it would be pixelated in that, but you can have it automatic. Guest. Oh, okay. SETI.
All right. It looks like I can do two places at once. So yeah, everybody else, is it just lowercase?
Yeah, so CETI and then change the password. If not,
Okay, so I think the problem is everything's hooked up, but that camera won't show up. I'm wondering if I should restart OBS because we plugged it in after we started it.
Yeah, that's probably
So
it.
stop the stream,
Did
restart
we, if you want to.
It's totally up to you. It's your workshop. I only have one camera right now, so I can switch.
That one, no coffee.
maybe Alana, would you like to log into that?
Yeah, I can be 3 people.
When was the idea that if I had been guest, it's one of those words that doesn't look right.
So this is our first computer lab workshop in our this location. So
So do you guys have the ability to do the vinyl here, or do you have to go to the PDF open workspace?
we have the vinyl cutter here. We have a Cameo Silhouette, and we've got a bigger Roland that I think we're waiting on software for. Or, yeah.
So when you come, you just buy your materials and you pay for lab time, or how do you get access to it?
We have some materials, but if you bring your own, that's awesome too.
Because it's primarily for students, so during the year, like how do you just call and schedule some time, or?
Yeah, we talked to Nandini. I'm not sure how we're scheduling the lab access. So.
Cool.
My understanding is they're still figuring that out.
Yeah.
It's so exciting. That
Still figuring a lot out. We're new. We're very new.
Well, it's cool that you guys are sharing it with the community.
Yeah. I enjoy this. This is fun. It's kind of like edge of my seat here. Okay, so do we have a fair amount of logins here? We good? Cool. Okay. If you don't have InkScape on your bar down here, which I don't think a lot of them do, if you hit Command Space, it'll bring up a search, and you can just type InkScape. It should come up if it's installed everywhere.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, that's taking you to the website. Is it installed on these other machines?
It's installed on this one.
Okay. We kind of hit or miss here. Oh boy, that's fun. Yeah, it'll take you to the website if it's not installed. Fun times. Okay. We don't have admin to install it.
Well, yeah, can you just go to the website and download it?
Yeah, but we don't have admin access to install it. So that's, you got it. It's not installed on this one. How's everybody else doing over there? You got it. It's what? Yeah, oh, okay. So what, this, she does, okay. You don't have it on, oh, you're on your laptop. Okay, that's fine. Cool.
But she was able to download it on here?
We don't have admin access, so you couldn't install it. So what login did you end up with? You have the SETI one?
Never mind. She's a PSC student.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay, let's
so
see.
if it's my login,
Could you check the computer next to you, Alana? See if that one's.
so this one,
Might have to like shoo you away to the other side.
so if somebody wants to use this one,
Okay. Cool. How many people don't have InkScape? Okay, so just you. Okay. I'm sorry.
What am I supposed to be doing now?
She has it on that computer. If you want to use that one.
Okay.
Cool.
This computer is also open to
That one?
Or if you want to do that one.
Well, I'm gonna just scoot over there because I don't know.
Wherever you'd like. Cool. Sorry.
It's all right.
Okay. So when you open it, you come to this welcome screen, pretty basic. I just kind of leave the white canvas.
Is the keyboard the shortcut? Is the keyboard, does that mean the shortcut?
Oh yeah, we're just gonna use the default Inkscape ones, but you can set it to like Illustrator or Corel Draw shortcuts if you want. But then it just kind of gets confusing. Yeah,
so are these not the kind of tables where you can plug in your computer on the table?
I guess not. Okay. When you hit save, it just kind of shows you can contribute time, you can help fund them, and just click over here to time to draw. And there's all these different templates that you could use, you know, A4, different paper sizes. You can bring up like a 1080, 4K image.
Wait, how do you get there?
If you click the time to draw tab here.
Oh, okay, thank you.
But we're just gonna hit new document, and then that's
Where was that?
just simple. That's just back on the first screen. The,
Quick setup,
yeah.
and then you go, how do you get the new document?
Um,
So hit save, and then save. He was here, he said. Okay, so you gotta walk us through it, because we never used this before. So first you have the welcome page, where do you click to get that?
yeah, it's just kind of a just generic,
Just
yeah.
setting your settings. And so, yep, and then time to draw. And that will, yep, and then new document.
Thank you.
There we go. Yeah, if you click on any of them, just like lower right here, just new
No,
document.
They helped me.
Okay, cool. I actually turn this off, and if I want to do a different template, if you turn off the show every time, it'll just bring you into a blank wordspace Inkscape document. So this is a basic interface. Get our tools. If you're familiar with Photoshop or Illustrator, it doesn't look too alien. The right side kind of does, but got our tools over here, got our basic operations, and when you click on different tools, this area, the second bar here, has modifiers for the tools.
That's huge. Okay. Yeah, I just- So I just dropped an image in there to experiment.
Yep. Yeah, so a lot of what happens also happens on the right side, also similar to Photoshop. So I'm going to click on File and Document Properties. Now the organization of Inkscape takes a little bit to get used to. It's well intentioned, but it's not always as intuitive as Adobe stuff. But so when you get into Document Properties, it pops up the window on the right. And I'm just going to set it to Landscape, just do something.
Landscape.
Yeah. And then you can X out of that tab there. So moving around the canvas, everybody, I guess, has 3-button mice here, unless you're just using your laptop. So if you click on, if you hold down the middle mouse button, the wheel, and move around, you can move around the canvas. And to zoom, you can hold Control and roll the wheel in or out. And you can actually go beyond this work area. This is just kind of the area that it saves. Like if you export a PDF for different software, it will just save the page area. But you can have, you can put stuff anywhere you want. So I'll draft just like over here and bring stuff in later. So.
Why is it that your tool looks like it has a little box? Did I miss something?
That's landscape?
Your tool looks different.
Oh, yeah, I'm on the Selector tool, it's the top one. Yeah, that's fine. So I was just clicking through them. So that's moving around the canvas. So what we have is this first tool here, the Selector, which you'll have by default. It just looks like an arrow. That selects objects, which are compound paths, bitmaps, anything like that. The second one is Edit Paths by Nodes, and that lets you pick parts of paths. So right after that is Shapes, and this will just get us to something simple. We've got boxes. The only keyboard shortcut you'll absolutely need for this class is Command-Z, and that's undo. So we'll just be making stuff and getting rid of it all day. So you got square, you got circle, pretty self-explanatory. You'll notice if you drag out a circle or a square, you'll get rectangles or you get ellipses. So you can control that by, sorry, I'm on a Mac, it's Command, no, it's Shift on here, right. Oh. There we go. Right, no, wow.
So option keeps it,
Oh, option, okay.
ratio, and shift makes it grow from the center.
Oh, okay. I think control and option seems to be, it will break out if you, okay. Yeah. There we go. Okay. So if you hold control and click and drag, if you kind of keep it to the corner right here, you can kind of get an idea of it. It will stay circular. If you start dragging it out, you can get that, but we can keep it kind of drawing a 45-degree angle away from the right. So the next one's Polygon Tool. It's the star tool. So we could do that. That's fine. It also has a polygon mode, and you can pick how many corners. So we've got triangle. I'm actually going to change the fill here.
So you can create your own shapes. That's cool.
Right. This is a lot easier than learning the pen tool today, so we'll do some fun stuff with this. And so up here, you'll see like with each tool, this bar changes. So with this one, We'll select this, and we can add as many corners as we want till we have some kind of dodecahedron, which I guess would be that one? Sure. Or we could just go back and turn it into a triangle. Now, if you go back to your Selector tool, you can hit S to get to that. You see we've got this bounding box around it, and then you can click and drag. You can also scale it, and the same sort of rules apply. You see as we're moving it around, it can shear in all directions. If we hold Control, we can keep it uniform and even on all the sides. But you can also just expand it on one dimension or another, so it doesn't matter. You can do that. And if we click on Node Select, Edit Paths by Nodes, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here. Let's see, this is actually an object. So what we want to do is go to Path and Object to Path. And now we can manipulate each corner individually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And now, so a fun thing to do is like, let's set up a triangle like this, and I can actually highlight more than one of the nodes. So you can see these two are highlighted here. And if you go up to the upper left here, there's Insert New Nodes into Selected Segments. And that will just pop in new nodes in the middle. You can also just double click. But if you do this one, it actually spaces them evenly. You see the first one I did, just put it right in half. And then we can just click this one directly, and we can start making shapes. Oh. Now we've got two options for shapes here. There's fill and stroke. If I click on this, if you click on any of the colors down here, there's this whole color palette. It'll change the fill color. And I can hold down Shift and click red, and we get a stroke. And right now it's like 1 pixel or maybe 2 pixels. So what we can do to modify the fill and stroke, and this is more on the graphic design side. This doesn't apply as much to the plotter, so we'll get to that, but I just kind of wanted to go over some of the basics. Because what we're really doing with the plotter and these kind of XY tools is working with paths directly. But I'm just going to go ahead and click on Object, on the Object menu, and Fill and Stroke. And then you'll get this. So now, this is the more precise way to edit the colors. We can do the RGB colors if you're doing web, like web compliant colors. Like the hex colors are down here. And you could use any form of color management you're used to. But we can click Stroke Style, and we can set these units however we like. So I can set it to pixels. And
Can you make a path around the shape?
which, oh, the stroke? Yes. Yeah. So I held Shift and clicked on one of the colors. And you can also actually just do this from the stroke menu. So like right here, like this is the fill color. You can also use gradients. So we can have multiple colors. Yeah, lots of stuff. So stroke paint, we can change the color directly here too, just like the other one. But stroke style, we'll go ahead and make this like 5 pixels or 10 pixels. Yeah. And you can do different things with the edges. Might be kind of an extreme example for this, but it's lagging on me. It's probably easier with a square to show this. So you can use different, in the stroke style, you can make this dashed, you can make this dotted, things like that. Not that one looks particularly good, but there's all sorts of things. And you can use, like see we've got sharp corners right now, but you can use like a beveled edge or a curved edge. You can also actually have used the node select, and maybe not with that, yeah. We can actually adjust the curve on this.
Could you show us how to node again?
With the nodes? Yeah. Yeah, so I'm gonna just click off of this to clear it. So I'm clicking Edit Path by Nodes, or you can use the N key. And when you hover over it, sometimes. Inkscape has a weird thing about hover. Sometimes things work, like even if you look at the, maybe it's more on Windows, but sometimes it just doesn't highlight things. But that's all right. So you can kind of see where your path is. But if I click on this with the Nodes tool, it will start out like this, and you can just mess around with the different, that'll be scale. That'll be scale. And then this middle one here, if you drag this down, gives you rounded edges all the way to a circle.
And if you wanted to add a node?
Let's see. This is still a shape, so to add nodes, to customize the shape, you would go to Path and then Object to Path. And now you have access to these nodes. So we could highlight a couple of them. And now you'll see this is where the Beziers start. Now that I've curved these edges, you see these bars that come out of the nodes. If you grab this, see, this is how vector graphics handle curves. And this one's pretty straight, but let's see. We'll get to the pen tool. That'll be all right.
Can you still go over how to add them?
What's that?
How do you add them?
How do I add nodes? You can, too much zoom. There we go. You can select a couple of them if you want to be like even, if you're doing, like design-oriented stuff. You can select add node here, and there's different tools. You can join selected nodes, break path at nodes, so, make them corners. Like if I pick this one,
Can you shift click on multiples to select them?
Yes. So you can shift click, and then I'll add nodes, and that'll give us a couple extra corner ones. I could do something like that. Cool. And if you want to make these even, you can also, where these rulers are on the top and side, you can drag down a guide. And then your snapping options are probably over here, wherever the snapping options went. Let's see. Probably up top on this. Well, anyway, we'll find the snapping options. So this is a little bit different than the Windows version, just a little bit, just enough to be annoying. So just kind of make that even. So this is all fun in graphic design space, but what we want to do with our tools, and we have to like consider the tool and the medium when we're working, is we're basically working with paths directly, and that's kind of the side advantage of vectors is, we're telling the machine where to go directly, mathematically. So if you go up to View and then Display Mode, you can click Outline, and that will show us purely what we're working. This is kind of what we're sending to the machine after it. I'm just going to click this guide and remove it. Just drag it back up there. So I want to see if I have the X-Draw extension. I do. Cool. Are we on time? All right. So I'm going to click View and just go back to regular mode, normal. And we've also got a 3D box tool here. That's novel. Actually directly.
Are you able to outline your strokes so that it shows up in the cutting mode?
In the cutting mode?
Yeah.
So there's different ways to do it. You can hatch things. You can just have it draw back and forth more. Yeah, or you can use a thicker pen. So there's So considering the medium too, because when we get to the hatch fill, it's kind of like, how frequent do you want the lines versus how thick is the pen? So if you're using a Sharpie versus a fine tip, yeah.
Question, for the applications that we're doing, is it best to have rounded corners or pointy corners? Or does it matter?
With the X-Draw, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
When you get to more advanced tooling like CNC, then you have to start thinking about bevel edges and the actual machine width and things. But this is really just drawing with a pen, so anything that you could do with a pen,
Okay,
it'll handle. So
so if you do make rounded corners, it'll round it.
right, yeah, it's very smooth. It's really cool. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. This second shape tool right here. Oh, the outline? Oh, yeah, okay. So if I make a new one, well, it'll already be set up like that. I'm just going to get rid of this first. So it's invisible right now. I can show you, you can remove the fill and stroke by clicking the X. So I'm just going to click black, and that'll give us a black fill. I'm going to remove that. It's still here. It's just invisible. So if I hold Shift and click a color, that gives us the stroke. And then if you open the fill and stroke window here, you can manipulate it further, change the size and everything like that. Oh. You can make it thinner or thicker. That's good. Cool. Then we have a spiral tool too, which is kind of limited, but it's fun. I like it. Oh, you could probably just grab one of these. Yeah. Let's see. So then next we have drawing Bezier curves. Is easy to figure out at first and then really difficult to get good at, but that's okay. So I'm going to click a point and I'm actually going to hold. Yeah, so you're drawing nodes directly without reference to a shape. So that's what we're doing. Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to hold Control, and you'll see when I hold Control and move around, it's just kind of moving in these like 15-degree increments. So that'll help you kind of like keep a straight line, go horizontal, vertical. So I'm just going to draw another triangle. Click. And then I'm going to hold Control, click again, and then I'm going to click to close the shape. That's not very even, but that's all right. And you see now it's a shape. We could just do the same thing. We can fill by clicking a color and stroke by shift clicking a color. What is the control? The what? The control. Oh, control keeps you on a 15-degree axis as you're drawing the line. So it just kind of gives you more literal control over how it's drawing the path. But you can also just draw lines in any direction. That's not where I wanted to go yet. Yeah, so we can just draw whatever shape we feel like and close it. Or we can even just draw a path. Say I just want to draw a line like this, and then I can hit Enter when I'm done with the points, and it'll draw a line. So far we've gotten these straight angles, right? And if you've clicked and dragged, you've already seen what's next, right? Anybody click and drag? Once you click another point, if you start dragging, now we can make curves. Dun, dun, dun. So I'm going to make a nice sine wave here, happy little sine wave. And then hit Enter when you're done with the path. Zoom out a little. I'm just scribbling all over paper here. This is fun. This is a good workshop. And you can do all sorts of weird things with curves. You can make modern, yeah, here we go. This is going to the mat right here. Boom. I'm not sure if it's the gallery or the opera, but the mat. Or maybe it's transit, I'm not sure.
So if you do it vertically, it will print horizontally on the program, but you can turn it any way you want once it's done.
Yeah, this is all very flexible. Like you can scale everything up, you can group it and scale it up, you can rotate it. What you want to consider in some, if I hit the selector tool, I'm just going to go ahead and highlight everything. And then, boy, this layout is different than mine.
What was the shortcut to make a stroke again?
To make a stroke?
Outline the shape in a stroke.
Oh, yeah. You can just add a stroke by, click one item. Trying to remember which one is shift and which one is not, because it's backwards from mine. There we go. Yeah, if you hold shift and click a color, it gives you a stroke. And you can also add it manually through the fill and stroke menu on the right. So if we go back to one of these Beziers and click on it, if my zoom works, there we go. I'm going to take my node tool by pressing N and go ahead and click on this Bezier. And I'm going to pick one of these curved points. And you'll see now we get these Bezier handles on either side. So you can grab one of these and see how moving it, shortening or lengthening it changes your curve. Oh, and if you click on a point that you don't like, I'll make a new line. Or if you start designing something and you're like, nah, I don't like this at all, you can just hit escape and get out of it, because if you just keep clicking, it'll keep making points forever. So escape and then enter if you do like it. Or if you close a shape, if you come back to the origin point, it will automatically close into a shape. So I can take my selector tool and click and drag and just delete some of these extras. That one's ugly. That one's okay. That's the eject key for the CD drive. Yeah, that's the calligraphic one, like the calligraphy pen. So, oh yeah, I don't think we'll even get to that one. I don't think I've actually used it. It looks cool. Let's see what it does. No, I have no idea. I do not know everything about Inkscape. I know what features I use, and I'll eventually learn the rest of the features, but this is definitely enough to get to where we're going today. So underneath the pen tool, we've got the Freehand Tool, and this is literally a pencil that turns into a path. Not really useful for a mouse, but if you like to freehand stuff, if you have like a Wacom tablet or some kind of tablet hooked to your computer, I suppose that's handy, but I don't really like it. It has some smoothing options, though.
Is it possible to input your hands-on stuff?
Yeah, and one of the things that I actually do is I'll draw something in a notebook, and I'll just take a picture with my phone camera. And there's a couple different methods. There's a tool for automatically tracing bitmaps. But another thing you can do is if you're just drawing something that you like, you can actually trace it using the pen tool and turn it into a whole thing. And that's the more professional way to do it. You wouldn't want to actually use bitmap trace in production. You would want to trace it out and be able to manipulate all those Beziers directly. Yeah. What's that?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
We can export as an SVG.
Yes. Yeah, actually, Inkscape by default saves to SVG. And that brings me to another point. Save frequently. I know that's a general software tip, but Inkscape, every once in a while, especially if you're using like an extension, like we're going to be using the Axodraw extension to hatch it and get it ready to print on the Axodraw. Especially before you use extensions, but just in general, if you're doing an operation that you're not super familiar with, Command or Control S, Command S on Mac and Control S on PC, save frequently.
I found out what the wave
Oh, yeah?
It's called the tweak tool.
Ooh.
So the tweak tool is ideal for illustrators who first draw their designs on paper and then scan and vectorize them. So it
Nice.
allows you to kind of like tweak paths a little bit. And it says you select the path first and then you can kind of just like push it around.
Nice.
Well, it's like after you live trace. So you know how like live traces would be the best draw.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes it helps you kind of.
So when you have an image and it's like this, and you want to just turn it like that, is there?
Oh, yeah, I missed a super simple feature, right. Okay, let's click on our select tools. I'm gonna go ahead and click on one of my shapes. And you remember these bars from selecting, right? If we click on it again, these turn into rotation handles.
Thank you.
So we can rotate. I can hold control and rotate on that same sort of 15-degree margin. So we can click, get it nice and even. And then you can shear as well. So that's cool. Less control than picking a node directly, but still kind of fun. There we go. We can make it nice. Is that isosceles? Right triangle? That's a right. Right. Also not good at geometry. That's fine. Cool. So another, of course, useful tool. I kind of want to keep half of these. I'm just going to move them over here. So we got our freehand, and then we've got a calligraphic one, which is also kind of a freehand tool, but adds a little bit of flavor to it. Zoom is reversed on mine. There we go. I don't really use it much. It's kind of, I end up having to adjust the path more than anything. I think it's not super useful for me, but it might be fun, you know.
Do you tend to design in black when you're thinking of stickers and things that are gonna need to be connected?
Yeah, when I'm thinking of outline, I mean, usually.
Does it make any difference when you export it?
It makes no difference when you're using paths. So what I'll end up using color for is keeping my brain organized. Because you can use layers in here. It's not as layer centric as Illustrator or Photoshop is, but it does have layers. So you can click. There we go. All right. And then we have, you know, these tabbed windows here, so you can still get to your things. And you can actually adjust these how you like for your workflow. If you drag this all the way down to the bottom, and you have an adjustment bar, you have an adjustment bar.
So when you were doing
It's
the
so grumpy.
multicolor
Oh.
Axio, are you doing color separation on layers and then you're printing different files?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And speaking of crashing, there you go.
I just crashed too. I tried to move my tools around and crashed.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
So if like you want to drop an image in from like a web page, from like say your logo,
Yep.
but you want to cut out the white parts.
Yeah.
Is there a tool for that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fine.
So what I was trying to figure out is like, if you have like a star, but you want the edges to be rounded,
Mm-hmm.
and so then you tell it to have like the rounded path, how do you tell it to just expand the shape so that the outline, the shape is the rounded path? I know how to do it in Illustrator, so that's why I'm like,
I think that you probably want to add a stroke and then change the stroke style so you'll add like a thicker stroke and then you can do the rounded
Yeah.
points. Is that
yes, but then the next step to tell it that the stroke is not a stroke, the stroke is the outline of the shape.
oh, I see.
Hmm.
Don't know.
Kind of baffled.
A stumper. I'll see if I can.
It's something that I've
Yeah.
recently figured out how to like get to an Illustrator. So I'm like, how do you do it here?
I'm like not able to visualize it. That's why I'm kind of like not sure, but yeah.
Yeah, 'cause I program for embroidery all the time, so I'm like, well, this is round now. Combine all these, and now you're round.
Yeah, anyway, just making shapes. Yeah, there's those errors. It tends to happen in waves, doesn't it? It's weird. Let's see, whichever tool we were just using, avoid that. Right, save frequently again. Make this landscape again. Yeah, like take your time with Inkscape, because if you start like, you have to think about it. Instead of like in Photoshop when you're dealing with there are this many pixels or this many color values, for every point and line and curve, and especially curves in Inkscape, the computer has to do an equation because it's literally, it's the math of curves. So every single point in there has to be an equation. So if you start selecting like 1,000 points and moving them around at once, just take your time for it to catch up or save frequently before you do it, or both. So I think the last tool I'm going to go over is text tool. Pretty straightforward. We can make text. We can pick a font. Actually, it's better to go into the text menu and pick a font because you get almost as good of a view of the fonts. It's a little tight, but I'm just going to pick Helvetica. I get Helvetica New. All right, let's do that. And heavy condensed. We're going to make a 90s Rave Flyer. I'm kidding. Kind of. Let's see. That's not what I want. I want to go back and type it. Condensed black. There we go. Escape. Right, do the opposite of what I just did. Type the text first and then go modify the font and everything. I'm just going to size it up. Double it. That's probably too much. Yeah, make it like 100. There we go. And you can pick whatever font you want. It doesn't matter. Whatever you like. And if you're familiar with working with fonts or working with typesetting and, InDesign, Illustrator, Photoshop, anything, all the greatest hits are up here. You got your font weights, you got your font size. I believe this one's tracking. It's tracking, right? Not a graphic designer. You can set your units here. You can set your justification, alignment. Yeah, all your basic text tools here. So I'm going to click select again, and we're just going to get this nice and centered. I actually want to do a little bit with the kerning here. Yeah, spacing between letters. I'm just going to say like -10. 10. There we go. Cool. That's a nice blocky little bit of text. So now you see, I'm going to click on nodes. It's still a shape, right? So, or it's an object rather. So the difference between objects and paths is it's like a complex organism of paths. So I'm going to click path and object path. Now you see we have these individual points. But if I click select, these all move together still. So I can go to object, which is counterintuitive because now that it's a path, I'm going to the objects menu, but it still works. I can hit ungroup, and now each letter should move individually. So I can do whatever. I can highlight, just scoot these in. Actually, you can hold control again and like keep that on the line with it. Do something like that. Cool. So now I've got a nice little bit of text turned into a path. I'm going to take, let's say we take like a triangle again. Sure. I'm going to make a nice big triangle. I'm going to click this twice. I'm going to zoom out. And click this twice to get the rotation handles and get this a nice 90s Taco Bell aesthetic feel. Make something vaporwave, you know, that's fine. I'm gonna click out here and drag, it should highlight both of it, and then I'm just gonna scale the whole thing down onto the page. We'll move it like that. So now you see the triangle's just over the text, but we're still within one layer. So what you can actually do is click an object, and we have these buttons here, raise selection to top, raise one step, or lower. So if I click see, it's gonna be all on different layers. You know, maybe you wanna save ungrouping for after this, but there you go.
How did you grab the InkScape and put them together?
Oh, yeah, did you ungroup?
Oh.
Yeah.
So now it's two different objects. So I select the one, so they're two different objects. Okay. So yeah, start the path.
So I'm going to take, it's a little hard to highlight. So one of the things is partial highlighting won't pick an object when you're in your selector. So if I highlight part of this triangle, it won't. You have to catch all of it. But that's handy if I want to say, you know, I can't start the highlight from in here because it's just going to move the shape. But if I start out here and I just highlight those letters, that's all that gets selected. So then I can do like this, click it and rotate it. There we go. Actually don't like the letter thing at all. Oh yeah, if you the top menu, path, and then object to path. Just gonna like move that up and that down.
I wanna learn how to cut out a picture so that I don't have a white background.
Yeah. Oh, and direct. There we go. Now I'm just making it look silly, but yeah. And all the same, just like with the shapes, we can click the node tool and we can modify how the letter looks. It doesn't have a lot of points. We could actually reduce some of the points. You can highlight and delete points and then see what it looks like. Of course, pen tool's difficult, so it's not going to look good right away, you know. It takes a lot of perseverance for that.
Once you grasp it and then you try to explain it to other people, you're just like, I don't understand.
It's very difficult.
And you just draw with it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand your problem.
I had no intention of getting everybody completely into the pen tool in 2 hours. So that's a whole thing. So I'm going to take the select tool, and we're going to select everything.
Where's the select tool again? Is it?
It's the top one, the S.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're just selecting everything?
Yeah. Just highlighting over everything. And if you go to path, we've got these different, they're called Boolean operations here. We got union, difference, intersection. So if you hit union, it adds all the paths together. It's not what we want. I'm going to undo that. Now, every time you undo, you have to reselect. It's a little bit annoying, but it is what it is. I'm going to try division and see what that does for me. That'll actually give us a path that we can cut out. If I click nodes and delete, right? Yeah. I don't know why it did the one letter at a time, but I'm going to go and select everything and say difference. It's being difficult.
I'm to the point where I'm stuck.
Because you want it all in one tab.
I do. I'm gonna remake the text here.
So what I wanna do is I wanna take the shape, and I wanna like make it so that there's no square.
Inkscape.
And then I wanna use that as eyeball.
Okay, is it, so grab the, just to see what kind of object it is, will you grab that second tool? And then just.
I'm just gonna do this more simply. Object to path.
I was trying to do the path and then.
Gonna highlight
I wanted to do
everything,
this, but I
and we're gonna
couldn't
try to
do
create a
it.
knockout here. All right.
You do Command Z over and over until it kind of gets back to where you need it.
I'm doing all the work that I just did.
It's a linear, like,
Yeah,
it has a
so
linear.
can I just like fix this so that it goes back to the way it was?
Oh, we're also on a shape. So with everything selected, I'm gonna object to path.
A square?
Okay, so you just want to like,
These are so grumpy.
Yeah, just a second, I'll show you what I mean. I don't know, just seconds.
oh, you're in a
View
different.
exclusion or
There, that's the way it was. Okay, so, what I want, okay.
I don't know why it doesn't want to do
All
that.
I wanted
You
to
just,
do
if you group
was to
path,
leave
is
it
that
this
enough
size, but I
to
wanted
get
to
it
bring
all
this in
into one
without changing the
path? So
size.
we're
Yeah.
back to like
Yeah.
I was just trying to, does it matter? if you
No,
do
yeah,
this?
you can multi-select them and hit Command G and group them together. Yeah.
So, and then it'll export as one, so say for a sticker.
So this
Right,
will still be
yeah.
printed, but it-
Yeah, there's actually tools for stickers. There's a clone tool that'll give you an outline as well. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I just
Yeah.
didn't know if it had to be.
I think Illustrator has a layout thing like that too, right? Has to. But somewhere.
I go,
Okay.
I don't know all the new features, because I've had it on Photoshop
So
for
Yeah.
this is
Illustrator
subject,
for so
so
long,
file,
that I'm just used to like, oh.
Right. I miss CS2. I don't really need anything past that.
to learn how to
Yeah.
do is to put an image in. And now I want to make the image the shape without the square.
well, that, the image is
How do you cut? Right, how can I cut it? Can you come help me?
Oh,
yeah, because I think there might just be like all objects have.
I want to cut, so, okay, I want this shape. I want to cut it out so there's no square. Because if I,
the square is just a bounding
I
box.
know, but watch. If I go like this,
Oh, it has a background color. Okay, so you want to get.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, so that's what
how do I
like a
get rid of this
PNG,
now?
right? Yeah. Okay.
how
Yeah.
do I get rid of this?
Well, that's I'm,
Wait, hold on, before you go, because I want to, I put it on the thing, so how do I get it?
no, that's the next thing that I'm
I know,
teaching.
just
So.
trust me.
Just do Command Z.
So to remove this, because I just put on there, I just do command.
Oh yeah, just Command Z. Yeah.
That's all I wanted. was the
Okay,
off my
cool.
page. Okay.
Or you could, when it's selected, you could hit delete.
Well,
So,
there's no back button.
yeah. I mean, Command Z is pretty much the back button there.
Oh, I found a back button actually.
Okay, so I've got my little triangle here. I'm going to do a box and just overlap it. And I can show you how these different tools work. I'm going to do object to path, and then these booleans. If I hit union, you see they'll just join into one path. Select again. And you can look all these up, the better description, what they do. If I do difference, you see it gets cut by the top one. So now we have the remainder of the path. Got to select every time.
So that's how you convert it.
Yeah, exactly. Just gotta drop out the text one. I gotta look it up real quick.
So, what Jess did was, she had an outline, she gave it she had a star shape, she gave it a stroke, she wanted the corners to be rounded, and then she wanted it to be one thing without a stroke. So there's stroke to path, so that gave her two different objects. But then you could use union, and then it'll just combine them all in one, instead of having to delete the inside.
Right. Yeah, if we do intersection, then it's only the parts that intersect. pretty self-explanatory. Exclusion, cuts out the parts that intersects.
So how do you put out an image? Are you gonna get to that?
Yeah, I am. And cut path keeps it the same, and this is a handy one for doing this, because now you have line segments in the paths. So if I click the tool, you'll see that these are actually separate paths. So I can take these and like remove them, just delete. There we go. You have to click on it twice to delete them sometimes, like that. So you see if you click it once, it won't delete. If you click it again, you'll see that the points get highlighted, and then you can delete it. So that's how you can break paths with other shapes, or create shapes out of complex shapes. So, okay. Yeah, we're at like 11:30.
That's how you create an easy logo.
Yeah, exactly.
Put some shapes together.
Yeah. Let's see. We make a square and.
Transformations? Can you do transformations?
What type of transformation?
Well, like if you want to, if you can like an Illustrator, you can take two shapes and then highlight a spot on each, and it'll generate, interim shapes in between.
Ooh, I think so.
It's just like, like if you're, like it's kind of like if you wanted to do more of a mathematical,
Yeah.
generated weird pattern.
I think so. There's a bunch of different things we could do. I'm not sure if it has like directly. It's probably, if you Google it, there's probably like a little process to it. I haven't tried doing an interim shape, but what I'll do a lot is those Boolean operations, and then just kind of modify them once they're like unioned. I'll delete some points and kind of let it shape itself. So let's see. Let's grab a raster image. What should we Google?
I just finally found one, so if you go to CETI.institute, you can pull, there's like a Portland State one on the community page. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, grab the Portland State School of Art and Design. It's not
Yeah,
very big, but
not the link.
it has a background.
Yeah. I'm gonna open the image in a new tab here. Yeah, perfect. You're saving me here. There you go. So I'm gonna, if you want to follow along, or just use anything that you've got that's simple. What happened? Oh, did you crash?
Yeah.
Fun.
But I just made something.
So I'm gonna, here's how to steal things off the internet. Right click, open image in new tab. And this is the whole thing too. Like if you, we're doing it the hard way, but if you want to just grab something cool, song by SVG. Okay, thanks Google. That's cool. freesvg.org and any of 10 million other sites. You probably don't even have to register. Since they show up in browser like Google image search, let's pick something. Sure.
Really good too, PEXELS.
Yeah, so if you wanted to grab this, well, that's probably a sale one. It takes a little digging around, but you can find different SVGs. So I'm going to right-click this and save image and just save it in the downloads here. Tab back to Inkscape, and going to go to, and the file formats that Inkscape handles natively are SVG and PDF. And I believe on PC, on Mac it's EPS, but not as common anymore. So generally, if you want to import from Illustrator to Inkscape for using the extensions like the Axodraw tool, you can just use an SVG, probably the simplest. If you want to do something production-oriented, you can import like an Illustrator PDF.
So there's not a plugin for Illustrator, you have to get it into InkScape and use that?
I don't think there's a direct. I don't really use Inkscape at the same time. But if you save an SVG out of Illustrator, you can just pull it right into.
Oh, you can pull it right in.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were saying there was a plugin that we had to use.
Oh no, it's because like the Axodraw runs off of an Inkscape extension, so that's like the print driver for it. I think there's a way to do it with Illustrator, but
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of the kind of DIY tools like this, they write Inkscape extensions essentially as like a printer driver.
Okay,
So,
good to know.
yeah.
It looks like you can also import just Adobe Illustrator format.
Okay, yeah, I guess so I'm going to go ahead and import. And imports you can do raster, bitmap images, you can do PNGs, JPEGs. I'm going to click my downloads, grab this logo. And you get some options here. I'm just going to leave it at embed. It adds the file to your Inkscape file, which makes it bigger, but with this logo, it doesn't really matter. You can just have it linked if you want. I'm just going to leave everything native the way it is and click OK. So what we've got, and this is what you get with raster images. Yep. We don't want that. So, look what's on your website. You know, and websites you can natively put SVGs in websites now, which is awesome. So you can scale it down to a phone. You can scale it up to, you know, a lot of like in OMSI, a lot of what you see on the screens is actually, you know, a web interface, or a lot of like apps that you see on big screens, like big touch screens and everything, are just websites. So being able to scale up your graphic to like a 72-inch screen or a digital billboard, anything like that, awesome. And you can do it in a web browser. So if you're going to do this professionally, what we would want to do is click the pen tool and, you know, this and this. This takes a lot of practice. It's hard. We're not doing that today. I'm going to hit escape. We're going to do it hacky. So I'm going to select our raster image here. And I believe it is in path and
Select. Okay.
select.
Is that select right here?
Yep, if you get the letter S, yep, you will select.
Okay. And then we go to path.
We're going to path and trace bitmap.
Hold on. Where's path again? Sorry.
Top menu.
I know, but it doesn't.
Sorry, I know it hides on these. I
Yeah,
think,
it's all.
is it
it's all,
defaulting to?
The word I'm looking for is icons rather than words.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So which symbol is path?
It's in your upper menu, so if you,
See, it's not there.
if you move your mouse up here, oh, it's up here. At the top, so
Okay.
This isn't
I
even
couldn't
full
see
screen.
over your hand.
That's amazing. Okay, here we go.
Path and then where?
And then the third one down, just trace bitmap.
Trace bitmap. Okay.
Cool.
And then what does it do?
And it brings up this menu on the right here.
Okay.
And there's two different modes here. There's single scan, which gives you basically a black outline. And there's multiple scans, which will scan for different levels of color. Again, save before you do it if you care about your file. Multiple scan can be a little sketchy. So we'll leave the brightness cut off where it is right now. And we'll just kind of leave everything at default and hit update. And
And do you want smooth or do you want stack?
in terms of,
It says
sure you-
scan, smooth, stack, or.
oh yeah, we're just doing single scan right now.
Okay.
So, and when you hit update, you can see this preview to the right, and it definitely looks a little bit off. So let's just start guessing and say, what if
does
it's,
invert image mean? Does that mean it's going to cut out what's inside of it rather than what's on the outside of it?
It'll flip.
oh no, that'd be invert. Revert just undoes the
Invert.
draw. Oh, invert. Oh yeah, that will,
Flip,
yeah,
Like if it's a black object on white, it'll change it to a white object on black.
right, yeah.
If
Yeah,
it's
you
a
could,
star, you know, it would flip it.
Okay.
yeah, and feel free to experiment with the options, especially if you're okay with the crashes, you know.
Well, he's getting to the background, or well, I guess, tracing it.
Yeah, I don't know what to do. So single scan, and then what?
Okay, but right now you're tracing your unicorn, so,
Yeah. That's what I wanted to do. But we can do it on the diamond.
yeah, let's do the diamond.
Okay, where is it?
When you're, sorry,
That's all right.
not to interrupt. When you,
And then go to
if your output is you're thinking sticker
is there a stroke width that you want to aim for?
So when we get to the cutter, I don't know where Miguel is. He is way more experienced with me than me at the vinyl cutter.
Okay.
So you actually have to export it into a proprietary piece of software that runs their cutter,
Okay.
which, like I was saying, every tool you have to like Google what the tool path is for that, because yeah, everybody wants a proprietary tool, and it's annoying.
Yeah.
But I believe what it does is once you import it, like don't quote me on this because I've messed with that software exactly once. Once you import it, it will take the outlines and like expand a little bit. So if you're making stickers, you can get it to expand.
It's gonna make
Sharper the images.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like,
You can also do that in here, and that's just a matter of duplicating and
yeah, just
yeah, duplicate enlarge by 10%.
Okay, and
Yeah.
then if I apply it,
and with the with the
Okay.
pin, it's just the width of whatever pin you have on there. So
Right.
it's not
Yeah.
1.35 long.
And since it is a path, I could. Oh, I don't have the. Yeah. There you go. So when you're doing paths, you end up with a lot of stuff like this. But we can use. There's a hatch tool built in with the XDraw driver that will let you. It basically hatches the fills for you.
Okay.
So any area that you have filled, so I'll get to that. It will hatch it, and if you put the hatches close together, it basically does a solid fill. But you can just. I like doing it with a little bit of line.
Yeah.
And what I'm experimenting with right now is I have cyan, magenta, yellow, and black Sharpies, and I just want to do. And you can you can do whatever you want. You can like just bump the print head
I have to add a layer, right?
up a little bit.
Yeah.
You can do it in the driver too, but I just kind of like bonk it a little bit, and then just have these slightly offset lines, and they're hatched maybe like a quarter marker width apart. So yeah, so you basically have like halftone lines.
Yeah, I've got ideas like
see, I didn't.
like impressionism. Like you could really.
How do you
like,
hear
color-
Yeah, digital impressionism
Yes.
or digital to analog impressionism.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually brought Prismacolor markers today because they're a little softer on the draw. So plus I want to test. The XDraw also has a straight down, and it also has a 45-degree attachment tool. So you can use calligraphy pens. You can use I don't know.
I'll bring my watercolor.
God dang it.
Yeah.
pencils. I got some ink. What are they called? Inkwort or whatever. So.
Yeah.
But you could like do a whole thing and then like, look, I watercolored this.
Yeah, there's so many different things. Like I kind of want to do watercolors or alcohol ink on the paper and then draw something over it. Especially if I know like what it is I want to draw. I want to vaguely paint the background colors in watercolor, let it dry overnight, and then draw the lines over. Make it mixed media. There's no real rule to it. Yeah.
Because I do a lot of drawings, and I can do like a sketch and then import it and make it like.
Yeah, like that's what we're doing right here. Like if you want to take a picture of your sketch with your phone, import the image and trace it.
Line art basically.
Exactly.
Just color it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. It's so cool. Right? Especially like by default, doing outline paths, I'm like, I'm just making coloring books. This is fun.
This is the layer.
Oh yeah, so when you
So I want.
click apply, it should just kind of drop this traced version over. If you draw it, you can move this out of the way. Obviously, I'm not happy with that yet. Set that to like 0.7. It's pretty straightforward.
Okay, so then it just disappeared.
no, if you go to 5,
There's
and then click on 5, so you're editing 5.
There's an earthquake coming from your computer.
okay.
Oh yeah.
So I'm clicking on it. How do you do it? Okay.
And then let's do Command A to like select everything on that.
And you can do a couple rounds of this. It's maybe not the best for like a sharp logo, but
Change the. That actually looks kind of cool though.
yeah, it's kind of.
Like it looks like a stamp kind of.
But you can change this. We can make it. It does look like a stamp. That's another thing you can laser cut. If you get natural rubbers, you can make your own stamps.
Yeah. Or because I do screen printing sometimes, like for shirts.
And that's part of the vinyl cutter too. Is you can You can cut out, we have a heat press for making shirts. I have a link for stenciling. It's like stenciling with inks. Yeah.
I do a lot of stencils for my shirts because I prefer to do like that.
Awesome.
And then just a little.
Yeah, being able to draw it in InkScape, you know, have it automatically cut out a stencil for you, and when you wear through it, if you're doing a run of them, another one. You know, just do like thick cardstock and go with it. So yeah, and we can fix.
Are we doing, are
This
we
is
doing
not
resource
good.
share on Discord, like a continual, like, look what I did?
Yeah, definitely. That's what it's there for.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Look what I'm ready to do. Can I come down and borrow your thingy?
Does that look about right where the eyeball should be? Yeah, I think so. Maybe a little bit closer to the. Oh, one of my things is missing. Where did it go? Check all your eyeballs. That one's not. That's this one.
So, I know you're working. If,
What colors? That's what. There
I
we go.
know, I love you saying it.
Does anybody
I
ask me
did,
this
I finished
question?
it
Why would you use the Axio printer when you could just print it?
When you could print.
I mean, it's cool,
Right, it is. It's
but like, if we're talking like, okay, well, taking my live design.
right.
It's paper substrate.
So right, it's more about medium. You do get the imperfections, like when it turns on a corner, you get little ink blobs. You know, definitely depending on what kind of pen. So you can experiment with different kinds of pens. You could also just use things that you can't use in a printer, like you could get paint markers. You can use like metallic markers and black paper, stuff like that you can't do on a printer, or most printers, or like way more expensive printers.
Yeah.
Yeah, colored pencils, any kind of, you know, it's a lot about medium, especially when you can change the angle of the pen. Yeah, or you could, you know, use it to write out somebody's homework for them with a pencil, and you know, just find a good handwriting font. You know.
So, when you want to print like a sticker or vinyl so you can put it on a t-shirt, and you have kind of, so you have like, I have like a yellow sun, and then I have a saying in another color. I have to print the stickers separately and iron them on separately, or how does that work?
Yeah, you have to print the colors separately. I think they can be ironed on together, but I'm not really versed in that. I think Miguel knows more about that. I think you could probably put them on the press together.
Or are we using a press?
We've got a press.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do I need to make two separate images, or can it be on the same thing? Print out, so it's gonna print out.
That involves the vinyl cutter software. I think you can import it together. I'm not sure how.
Because I'm thinking you put one color vinyl on, then you print what you want, it cuts up the vinyl.
Right.
And then you pick the other color and you have to print it on there separately, right?
Right, because it's
Okay, so that's
different
separate.
computer. Yeah, you might be able to import them into that software together, but I'm not sure. You'd probably do that. Let's see what else we want to do.
My computer's trying to update things. Yeah, not today. I tried to do you last night and you wouldn't connect to the internet. I was being a jerk.
So, and the other mode of trace bitmap, if you click multiple scans, it will basically look for multiple colors, and that's where we would break down, you know, a color image into multiple plates that we could use on the Axodraw or for vinyl cutting or anything like that. So I'll say like 3, update, and you can see it. Gives you a couple layers. Still doesn't look great with text.
You would really just use that for the logo and.
Yeah, I would just kind of keep it with the logo. So there's a couple approaches to that. If you want something more exacting, I mean, there's a guy on YouTube who does a ton of great tutorials. It's Logos by Nick. And he does a really good pen tracing an image where he pulls in a picture of a parrot. And it's like, you don't have to draw everything, but like abstracting it down to, okay, these are the basic curves of what you're drawing. It's like a 20-minute video, and maybe take like another 20 minutes to pause and do it yourself. It's pretty good, so.
Fine, but this is there.
Let's see what I want to do.
InkScape SVG, does that just
Mm-hmm.
have like application preferences?
Yeah, it has application metadata, but it shouldn't affect like loading it in a browser or anything else. Right, it just helps Inkscape, yeah. But it's hopefully everybody has it up to the standard where those extra details are agnostic to, the main function of the program.
Okay, so this one, I want to practice that again. Okay. No.
So I think the last thing we're going to do is kind of look at how we can work with the tool specifically for the Axedraw. So I'm going to draw a shape, just a square. Actually, I'll make a polygon.
First, I need to,
We'll do a star, something like that. Now again, what we're actually sending to the machine is path. So if I'm looking at it, this is what we would get if we sent it to the Axedraw, regardless of fill, right? So what we'll need to do is specifically tell it, don't just draw that outline, take the marker and fill it in by drawing back and forth or by drawing straight lines. And that's called hatching if you're doing that. So I'm going to switch back to the normal mode. And I'm not sure if the Axedraw control is on all of these, but we can just follow along up here. We'll be moving into the lab and we can make things. Yeah. Did you object a path? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was the problem. And then so you have to take any object you have. All objects have to go object to path.
Yeah, it's a little finicky, and it's something that, gets better the more you do it.
well, no, the program's not the same.
I shift and click that, should multi-select. Yeah. There you go.
No, nothing's like literally.
Okay, hit undo, select them again, and actually, just select the star. And let's see, I'm trying to think. You may want to move that down. There's those 4 buttons right there, or the hierarchy to your right. Yeah. See, that'll move the selection up. So move it down one, and see if that helps.
And then select the one, right? So they need to be right next to each other.
I believe so. Try some combinations of it. Yeah. Okay. If you don't have the Axedraw utilities, we'll have it on the machine that controls the Axedraw. So what I'm going to do is go to extensions, and there's a whole bunch of different ones. There's some cool stuff in here. And I'm going to click Hatch Fill. Cool. And that brings up this dialog. I'm going to click Live Preview. And right now you're seeing each hatch is 3 pixels apart, so it still just looks like a solid object. If I say 30, and then you got to click out of the field, so I'll click to the next one. I'll do like 300. It's too much.
No, I want to get rid of the background.
I'm going to close this, make sure I got it selected right.
Okay, so path, and then trace bitmap. Okay.
And then hit update just to see how it does with the start. Okay, so the sun is yellow, it's like,
Yeah. So then I have to go like this.
There we go. Okay, so you actually want to remove the fill from your shape before you go into this, or you can't see it under the fill. So this helps you do it. So you can look at your hatch spacing, we'll say like 20, hit tab, you see. So now this is like the path that the pen is taking. Yeah.
Can you control those? Like say you wanted, I mean, if you wanted more like a sumi brush stroke with a Copic, can you go start and then go deeper down and then back up with this?
There's an experimental plugin that does more dimensional things, but like the design of the core Axedraw is like servo up, servo down.
Okay.
Somebody, if you search like 3D Axedraw, there's an experimental plugin that does that. But I think they didn't want
Not
to.
there yet, I'm just wondering, just.
Yeah, they didn't want to involve it in the core software because it requires a lot more work, and also because if you start like shoving the pen down too hard, then you break the pen, you break the servo. So it's more of a finicky practice. But yeah, I want to get into that, but I haven't gotten there yet. I'm still still learning this. We got this a week ago, so
Start here.
yeah, yeah. And this does make a path, so if you want to move around these lines, you can just select the nodes and move the pen path directly. So, but yeah, if we want to do a full fill, we could just do it like this. And if you consider the width of the pen, if we're doing a fine line, you'll probably see this. If you're doing a Sharpie,
I'll write that down too.
8 pixels will probably do it. We could actually make it just a straight line like that. We can cross hatch it. We can change the angle.
Would you click on it and click
Ooh,
delete?
I can see where your mind is going.
Right, yeah. You start offsetting things a little bit and delete the outside lines, and you've got like, call it Trinitron halftone. You ever see the old Trinitron, Sony Trinitron TVs, tube TVs? It's just so off topic. So back when they had tube TVs, they had RG&B, red, green, blue dots. And then Sony Trinitrons were above and beyond way better than any of the other tube TVs. And it's because they actually used an aperture grill where they had vertical lines all down the screen, red, green, and blue vertical lines, and a different angle of the gun shooting electrons at it. So it just looks so much sharper than any other tube TV. And it's because it's just vertical lines in very close succession instead of dots, like pixelated. So it's like the vector screen equivalent without having a vector screen, because that's like playing Tempest. But yeah. That's,
Tech, right?
yeah, exactly. That's the broad level of obscure, worthless knowledge that I like to collect. So. But yeah, so this is looking good, and go ahead and apply that. And close. Oh, I guess I applied it twice, and that's fine.
Oh, it did everything.
So yeah, so we got our shape. And then when we're connected to the Axedraw, I can actually open this without being connected to the Axedraw. This gives you an idea of what's happening. Copies, seconds to delays, but whatever. We'll start with 1, and that's fine. So when you're setting this up, you'll install the pen while it's down. Right. So what I like to do is hit toggle between up and down, and every time you click apply, it will raise or drop. So I like to drop it, put the pen on the corner. You can even like stick a card or something in between so you don't get it on the paper if it's that, I usually just have a messy blob of that in the corner. And then, screw it into place, and then up and see, and you can adjust
And once I've done that, I can select it.
where that goes relative to it. And you can set the drawing speed, which is fun to experiment with, make something simple and test it with different types of pens, because different pens have different flow rates, and that's where you really start thinking about the medium, and it gets, try little things, and if it starts like streaking out or drying up or anything like that, change your settings.
It doesn't squeeze them in like if it was like.
I mean, you could use the thumb screw to squeeze it in a little bit, but it's not part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just thinking for yours, when you make yours, you should have
So I go
squeezed
to
it
edit.
with
Yeah.
watercolor.
Before I do that, can I
And
say?
then it'll just go.
Yeah, see, that'd be fun too. There's so many things. And there's like, if you go on Thingiverse, a 3D model site where you just basically people make things to 3D print and they upload the models. People make accessories for that, and people make, anything involving tooling, people tend to make accessories and share them. So,
Here you said I was gonna break by doing something. Okay.
Hmm?
Oh, doing it with a knife.
oh yeah. Yeah, you could print some kind of tool for holding a knife, or, if you want to do an angle other than straight down or 45, you can, So I think the only other thing here that I'm going to look at is layers. And it's very, very, very simple. It just explains to you, like if you just want to use a particular layer, you just name it with a number at the start, and then you say only plot layers beginning with this number. So if we're doing that, I'm just going to copy this and layers, add a new layer, add a new layer.
Color separation.
Right, and that's what I'm thinking for this is color separation. So now we're on layer 2. I can print I'll paste that, offset it a little bit, and just for my own reference, I'll make it cyan. And the fill doesn't matter, so we can, other one.
Okay.
There we go.
Do it again.
Yeah, sorry. So that's in the Axodraw tools. So you'd have to install those, or we're going to have them on the machine connected to the Axodraw. Okay, that's fine, yeah. Yeah.